Let's get going. Today we are going deep on something that I think a lot of people listening struggle with, and that's thinking in English.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a tough one.
it is that mental back and forth, like translating before you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how to just break free of that.
Absolutely. We're going to unlock that fluency that you have inside by getting rid of that translation step and just letting it flow.
Yeah. So our deep dive today is all about kind of rewiring our brains, training our minds to think in English so that we can speak it more naturally, more fluently, more confidently.
More spontaneously, right? Like you're not having to think about all the rules and the grammar. You're just letting it flow out.
Yes, exactly. Like it's your native language.
Exactly.
So the source material that we're looking at today really emphasizes this idea: think and speak in English. Right.
Yeah.
It sounds simple enough, but for a lot of us, it's like, how?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's important to mention that the reason why this is so important is because that mental translation step that a lot of learners go through actually slows us down.
Yeah.
It's like trying to drive with your eyes closed. You're going to get somewhere, but it's going to be a lot slower and probably more dangerous.
Right. And more frustrating.
Absolutely. So we're really trying to get to that point where you don't have to think about the translation. You just know what you want to say and it comes out.
Okay, so the big question, of course, is how?
How do we do that?
How do we actually do that?
Yeah, there are a few different things that you can do. And one of the biggest things is immersion. And you think about how you learned your native language.
Right.
You were surrounded by it all the time. You heard it all the time. You probably saw it written.
Yeah.
So you were just constantly bombarded with this language. So one of the things that you can do to start thinking in English is to create an English environment for yourself.
Yeah, so like listening to music in English or podcasts in English or watching TV shows.
Exactly. And make it enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
Don't force yourself to watch something that you're not interested in.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to want to do it. But if you find something that you're genuinely interested in, even if you don't understand everything at first, that's okay. Just get that exposure, and make it fun. Like if you like to watch cooking shows in English. If you like true crime, watch documentaries or whatever in English.
Yeah.
Something that you'll actually enjoy.
Right. And it's funny you mention that because I'm kind of a true crime junkie myself. And one of the things that really helped me when I was first learning English was listening to like true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
Because it was like a story, it was entertaining, but I was also getting all of this vocabulary. And it made me want to like keep listening.
And you didn't realize you were learning.
Yeah.
You were just enjoying yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So immersion, I think, is super important. But what about actually like producing the language?
Right.
How do we get our brains to actually form thoughts directly in English?
Right. So this is where internal monologue comes in. So basically, talking to yourself in English, I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's super effective. So you're basically narrating your day, describing what you see around you, having arguments with yourself about what you're going to have for dinner.
So like a constant stream of English commentary.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to use perfect grammar or vocabulary.
Yeah.
The important thing is that you're doing it in English. And I actually remember when I first started learning English, I used to talk to my cat in English.
Oh.
That's cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, I don't know if it helped her learn English, but it definitely helped me.
Right.
And it's funny because I think a lot of us, we translate even our simplest thoughts.
Yes.
Like, should I have cereal or toast for breakfast?
Right.
Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly doing this back and forth translation in our heads. But if you can start to think about those things in English, it will really speed up your fluency.
Yeah.
So internal monologue, super powerful tool.
Okay, so we're immersing ourselves in English. We're talking to ourselves in English.
Right.
What else?
What else can we do? Well, we can focus on vocabulary building.
Okay.
And this is something that I think a lot of learners kind of get wrong. They try to learn, thousands and thousands of words.
Right.
And it's just overwhelming.
Right.
And it's not really necessary. So instead of trying to learn every single word in the dictionary, focus on learning the words and phrases that are relevant to your daily life.
Okay.
Your interests, your work, your hobbies. If you love to cook, for example, learn the vocabulary related to cooking.
Right.
If you're a musician, learn the vocabulary related to music. That way you're actually using the words that you're learning.
Yeah, and it makes it more enjoyable, too. Right. Because you're learning things that you're actually interested in.
Exactly. And the more you use those words, the more they will become a part of your active vocabulary.
Right. So we're having internal monologues, we're building vocabulary that is actually relevant to our lives. What's the next step?
Well, the next step, and this is probably the most important step, is practice.
Of course. Practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. You can't learn how to swim by reading a book about swimming, right?
Right.
You have to get in the water.
Yeah.
And the same is true for speaking English. You can't just listen to podcasts and watch TV shows and expect to be fluent. You have to actually speak.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because they're afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, it's natural. You know, everybody's afraid to make mistakes, but it's so important to remember that mistakes are part of the learning process.
Absolutely.
In fact, the more mistakes you make, the faster you will learn.
I love that.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and speak, even if you're not perfect. And you know, there are lots of different ways to practice. You can join a language exchange group. You can find a tutor. You can even just talk to yourself in the mirror.
I like that one.
The important thing is that you're using the language.
Okay, so to recap, we're ditching the mental translator.
Yes.
We are immersing ourselves in English. We're challenging ourselves to think in English, even for like our everyday thoughts. We're building relevant vocabulary.
Yes.
And we're practicing speaking as much as possible.
Exactly.
That sounds like a plan.
And it's about forming a new habit.
Yeah.
You know it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
It takes time, it takes effort, but it's definitely possible.
Absolutely. And I think it's encouraging to know that anyone can do this.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
Absolutely. And I think the main takeaway here is that thinking in English is a skill that you can develop with consistent effort. So start small, pick one technique that resonates with you, and make it a daily practice.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed at how quickly your brain adapts.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our deep dive today.
It does.
Any final words of wisdom before we sign off?
I would just say embrace the journey. Celebrate every small victory.
Yeah.
And remember, the more you think in English, the more fluent and confident you'll become.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And until next time, keep practicing your English and keep thinking in English.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.